Thanks, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. 1 year ago, here at the Policy Summit, if you asked me if I knew what open source AI would be, I would probably have one very safe answer to give you, and that is that an AI would have to offer you the 4 freedoms that we expect from software. Following the good old free software definition, those are the unrestricted freedoms to use an AI, to infer outputs based on inputs, study how the AI was built, and to share copies in order to help others, and modify the system to change its behavior. Now, it looks pretty simple at a first check, but it's not simple. It wasn't simple to complete these sentences of those 4 freedoms, because if those of you who are familiar with the free software definition, they will notice that there is a short sentence missing. That sentence that says access to the source code is a precondition for this. And a year ago, we didn't know what was required for users of AI systems to exercise those freedoms. We knew that we were dealing with a completely different thing than software, because software is programmed. It's written by humans. And these AI systems that we were talking about, we're still talking about, they're not programmed. They learn by themselves after complex operations have been done using software, knowledge, hardware, and data. And for software, we are pretty comfortably always saying, give us the source code and we'll fix it if there is a bug in it. For AI, there is no source. And this makes the open source definition, point number 2, quite obscure. Right? Point number 2 of the open source definition mandates that the source code of the program must be available. And also, it prescribes in which form this source code must be distributed, must be made available. It is the form that a programmer would use in order to modify the software. It cannot be obfuscated in any way. So that's what we needed to understand and define for AI. What is this form that a builder of AI would need in order to use, study, modify, and share the system? Without knowing this passage, we would not know what the open source definition actually meant. We didn't have a way to port the concepts and the principles of open source definition inside this new domain. And so we needed to find out, and we did it by spending more than a year running a global co-design process that involved over 100 people, more than 20 organizations from 27 nations, a third of which from the Global South, and funded by Sloan Foundation and other donors. So we asked experts in different fields, not just from software or copyright experts. We asked them to evaluate over a dozen AI systems and tell us what they needed to obtain in order to use, study, modify, and share them. And together, we found what the clarifying answer to these questions. And the answer that we found is not too surprising. It's actually no one, one needs to have access to unrestricted access to the trained parameters and weights, the complete code used to train the system, and equally complete code used to build the training data set, and the full data set with a footnote, unless legally impossible. So this is the practical answer that we can give today to anyone who's procuring an AI-based solution. That for public administrators or any other one who's receiving these systems, you should ask for these things today. You can ask for all these things today for all kinds of AI. That includes medical AI, whether it's a robotaxi, whether it's anything that is a machine-powered system that spits or infers an output based on an input. These can be asked today, and they can be asked with all the rights and all the freedoms granted by the open source definition and the free software definition. Now, some are saying that this is not the perfect definition of open source applied to AI. And Meta and other groups are writing this, saying that there are multiple definitions of open source for AI, and therefore, because the open source initiative doesn't have 100% mind share support from every individual on the planet, every corporation, they push for the public to accept that their system, Llama, is open source, despite being made available with terms that deprive users of basic necessary freedoms. And the sad part is that in the community, there are a few people that directly and indirectly are supporting Meta's position. They're distracting us collectively by focusing on a footnote. And let me repeat, the principles is written in the open source AI definition is that an open source AI is one that gives society all the tools, all the components with the freedoms needed to build another one like it. And that's what we have written there. That's what we're asking you to read, not a footnote. So we have a specific problem with groups like Meta who want you to believe that systems like Llama is open source regardless of its bad licensing term. They're hiding behind the acceptable use policies. To appease European regulators, they want you to accept that openness is a scale, like a gradient where some restrictions are acceptable or even inevitable. They argue that you can forego this unrestricted nature of open source because AI is different. They want us to forego our principles, that we need unrestricted access, and let me repeat, unrestricted access to all of the tools and components that an expert needs in order to study and modify an AI. And that's a trap. AI is different, but it's not that different. The principles of open source are the same. And I want to be clear, the OSI agrees that there should be acceptable use policies, but on deployed AI, not placing terms into licenses. That's going to choke innovation and adoption. Regulators should not be turning developers into police. The regulation needs to happen at the deployment level, just like it happens in the Cyber Resilience Act. So it's clear that our enemy is not each other debating on a footnote, but who wants to stretch the open source definition and the concept of freedom. Openness is not a scale. Some restrictions cannot be accepted. That's like telling a prisoner that they are free because they're not shackled to a wall or can move around their jail and go play in the yard. The prisoner is free only when they get out of jail. Freedom is a binary concept. One may go through many degrees of restrictions, but you're either free or not. And so we must continue to expect that open source grants us freedom. And today, I encourage you to endorse the open source AI definition and join us in our effort to publicly correct Mark Zuckerberg and Jan LeCun when they mistakenly say that Llama is open source. It's not. It's as simple as that. So, thank you.